Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from Sunday, February 16th, 2025, in the space and time continuum. It was only a week ago, believe it or not, was Donald Trump unable to stay for the entire Super Bowl. Why? We're not sure. Did he just get mad because he was being booed at? Because the team that he predicted to win was losing horribly, apparently? Or was it an incontinence thing? I think probably a mixture of all. His makeup job, by the way, wow. Just pathetic. He's a pathetic person. Another thing that happened only 4 days ago was Elon Musk bringing his son into the Oval Office for a press conference while his son terrorized Donald Trump, standing next to him, picking his nose. It's gross, but he's a 4-year-old kid. Donald Trump's watching him do all this. He goes up to Donald Trump and says, "You're not the real president. You need to leave." All right? You remember many weeks ago, I reported that that same kid said, "We own SpaceX. We can do whatever we want. They will never find out." And then when Elon Musk started talking about that it was already done, the election was already won. This is weeks before the election. He said it to Tucker Carlson, who looked genuinely scared that Elon Musk said that. And the kid tried to cover Elon Musk's mouth. Like, you're not supposed to talk about this. Okay, let's get back to this week. Elon Musk in the Oval Office. That was only this last Wednesday, just 4 days ago. It seems like at least 2 weeks ago. Things are moving slowly because there's so much. Here's my notes. If you're watching, just a full page of notes. I'm just going to kind of wing it here because if I just keep doing research, I never get to recording, and I've got way too much to talk about. So as horrible as it was to see, my friend Doug called me and right after Elon Musk was in the Oval Office, because it just was making him sick, as it does me. I'm used to thinking of the Oval Office as a really good place, and to see this, Elon Musk, he's the rich guy, so he doesn't have to wear a suit and tie. He can do whatever he wants, right? Because he's the rich guy. Nobody can say anything against him. Donald Trump, he's Donald Trump's boss. Donald Trump can't say anything against him. So he brings his kid. It's just so obnoxious. And to see the Oval Office defiled in such a way was really sickening, but it will add to people's disdain for Elon Musk. And when at some point when this country needs to come back together and everybody can see that this whole Donald Trump was a charade of sorts. By the way, he did not win this election. I'm not here to talk about what's going to happen as far as that is concerned, but people are turning against Donald Trump a lot because, you know, he's trying to shut down U.S. aid, and already, even though that got blocked, already it is hurting farmers in red states. He is turning down Governor Kemp in Georgia, a red state that is still trying to repair itself after the Hurricane Helene this last summer and fall. The Trump administration is cutting off FEMA funding. So Georgia's being hurt by that. Governor Kemp asked for an extension because he was getting everything he needed from President Biden, but now Trump is cutting him off. So people are turning against Donald Trump, and people have already hate Elon Musk. He's such a freak. I mean, you look at him and it's like There's some sort of white sheath that's covering some creature that is not a human being. All right? I don't know what he is, but let's go to something positive. You asked the question, where's Congress? I haven't seen Speaker Mike Johnson say anything for weeks. Where's he? What's he doing? Other Republicans that you normally see on TV, what are they doing? I saw Ted Cruz is on TV, but he's just trying to promote his podcast. So he stays on TV, but he's not really talking about anything of substance. So what is Congress doing? Well, apparently they did have a committee hearing. Marjorie Taylor Greene has become the chair of the DOGE committee, even though DOGE is not a thing. It's supposed to stand for the Department of Government Efficiency, but it's not a real entity. And that's the thing that Elon Musk supposedly is heading up. It's just a bunch of BS, including Marjorie Taylor Greene being the chair of a committee called the DOGE Committee. We don't hear from Republican congresspeople, and Congress is doing nothing. Democrats are waiting for what the Republicans are going to do. They're going to have to do something soon because on the 13th, I believe it is, of March, less than a month from now, the government's going to shut down unless Congress passes a budget. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they're planning on doing because they're not doing anything and they're not talking to anybody. But Democrats in this committee, they did have some good contributions for us. This is Representative Robert Garcia using his time when it comes up in the DOGE committee.
Now, I find it ironic, of course, that our chairwoman, Congresswoman Greene, is in charge of running this committee. Now, in the last Congress, Chairwoman Greene literally showed a dick pic in our oversight congressional hearing. So I thought I'd bring one as well. Now, this, of course, we know is President Elon Musk. He's also the world's richest man. He was the biggest political donor in the last election. He has billions of dollars in conflicts of interest. And we know that he is leading a power grab, also abided by and encouraged by Donald Trump and, of course, the chairwoman.
That's Robert Garcia. Of course, the picture that he had that he called a dick pic was just a big picture of Elon Musk. So, yeah, he's using his time well. Another one of our favorites who is in the same committee, here's what she had to say at the same committee meeting. I think this was on Thursday, by the way. But here is one of our favorites, Representative Jasmine Crockett.
We've had a number of these hearings, so I do want to be clear. Before the Trump administration came in, this committee did exist in the form of the Oversight Committee, and our task is to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. In that vein, we had a number of hearings, at least last term, and we dealt with improper payments. And interestingly enough, our chairwoman, who is so passionate about this today, she missed every single one of those improper payment hearings. But just to be clear, I was there, so I don't want anyone to believe that Democrats just come to work and don't plan to do work. In fact, I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is that the Republicans believe our job is, because right now they have relinquished their constitutional duties over to an unelected bureaucrat, someone who no one went out to vote for. And absolutely, he is occupying the Oval Office, as we saw yesterday. And that is a first for me to see someone occupying the Oval Office who's never actually been elected to the Oval Office and actually answering more questions than the person that allegedly got elected.
Allegedly got elected. I love how she says allegedly got elected. She, a few weeks ago, called for Congress to look into what we talked about here on the show that Greg Palast found with 4,776,000 purged wrongly ballots. Why were they wrongly purged? So that's Jasmine Crockett actually trying to do a job in Congress, trying to do a job in Congress. Now, another thing that I want you to keep in mind through all of this horribleness that's going on, we're trying to have some fun here, as is Jasmine Crockett and Robert Garcia. And some other, Moskowitz was on, trolling on Fox, Representative Jared Moskowitz He's another one of our faves. Anyway, and by the way, why are the Democrats seeming to almost be having fun, being cheerful, being relaxed? And the Republicans, although they supposedly won the Senate, the House, and the White House, they seem super pissed off all the time. Angry, uptight, scared, nervous. Pete Hegseth in Europe at the Munich meetings. I can't remember exactly what they're called, but wow. First of all, he just looks smarmy and sweaty all the time. He's just one of those guys who just has that slippery look. He proved how much of an idiot he is. I don't know who wrote the speech he was doing, but it was an idiot who wrote the speech he was doing. He had a drink that, I don't know, does he not real? Why didn't he have a bottle of water? He had like a whiskey glass that he kept drinking from at his podium. Wow. Anyway, he was not looking happy. Neither was J.D. Vance, who spoke there and ostracized himself and the United States from Europe. Right now, it's the United States against Europe. But what I was going to say is, all of these horrible things going on, and yes, they're scary, and yes, this is hard to get through, and yes, I get depressed pretty much on the average of every other day, and then the next day I feel good again, like, okay, we're going to do this. Somehow we're going to come out of this. And again, I'm not here to talk about how or when that kind of thing is going to happen, but what's going on now is just simply not sustainable. Europe is angry at the United States. I don't know what's going to happen in Europe and with NATO. But right now, they seem to be thinking of the United States almost as their adversary. I know they know that we're not, but they know that our administration is. They know that Donald Trump is, Elon Musk is, J.D. Vance is, Pete Hegseth is. It's pretty terrifying. And yes, I do get down a lot, but, they knock me down, but I get up again kind of thing. You got to get back up again. I want to remind you, okay, birthright citizenship order, that was a horrible and scary thing. Donald Trump saying, trying to get rid of birthright citizenship. Oh, that order was blocked. Cutting off all federal funding, that was scary. It was blocked. Illegal resignation plans for all federal workers, giving you an offer saying, if you resign now, we'll pay you till September. That was blocked. Those people are not resigning. They don't have to resign. Access to the Treasury's vital data system. Okay, that's horrible, right? Elon Musk's guys are going in there. These 19-year-old idiots going in there. Well, that was blocked. And there's going to be prices to pay for what they have done. They were told to destroy everything that they have acquired. We're going to hear about that more in the future and what kind of price they're going to end up paying for that. Firing 2,000 U.S. aid workers. Okay, that was horrible. That's something that is just horrible. Oh, it was blocked. It was blocked. The NIH grant being cut off. That's a horrible thing. All this research being done, medical research at universities, having to stop. For instance, in Alabama, of all places, Birmingham, Alabama, the U of Alabama is the biggest employee in the state. And they were going to have to lay off. It was going to cause huge economic damage in Alabama and the United States. But it was blocked. Removing public health websites. That was blocked. All right? So we have birthright citizenship order blocked, federal funding cut off, blocked, illegal feds resign plan, blocked, access to Treasury vital data system, blocked, firing 2,000 U.S. aid workers, blocked, drastic NIH grant cuts, blocked, removing public health websites, blocked. A judge orders the CDC, the FDA, and the HHS to restore web pages that were deleted to comply with a Trump executive order. That Trump executive order was blocked. pretty much everything Trump is doing is getting blocked in the courts. Keep that in mind. They want us all to be broken down. They want us all to be scared and depressed. What does AOC say?
I'm not going to give them my fear.
That's right. We're going to keep playing that on this show a lot. Do not give in to these idiots and twerps. Do not give in to them. Everything they're doing is being stopped. This is a non-thing kind of thing. I know it doesn't look like that, and I know you're scared. It's okay to be a little scared, but don't show them, okay? And really, do what you enjoy doing with your life. We've been through horrible, scary times before, and we made it through. Now, I've gone over time. I'm going to take a short break, and we're going to come back. And I've got a lot more things to talk about. And a lot of it, you can look at it as though it's a comedy. Trump has turned into a genius comedian. Anyway, let's take a short break. We'll be right back on A Satellite View. Satellite View. If you like the music, go to toddmikkelson.com. Push the music link. You can find this music and a lot of other music I've written throughout the years. And also, go follow me on Instagram, at Todd Mikkelson on Instagram. You could use more followers over there. Getting back into the things that are going on. Big news today, even though it's Sunday, an emergency summit has been requested and is going to happen on Monday. It was called by Macron, the Prime Minister of France, and other countries are complying. They all want to have an emergency meeting, including UK apparently getting back with the EU, right? The European Union. They voted for Brexit years ago, and looks like they want back in. And the reason this meeting is being called is because of the United States and what J.D. Vance said. It's crazy. And by the way, have fun trying to find that story. I have a page here. So the New York Post, that's a United States, but they're kind of a joke, right? The New York Post, they're kind of, they often have things that are like very right-wing. But they have a headline, French President Emmanuel Macron sets emergency summit for European leaders. It was a headline on Reuters. It was a headline on The Guardian. It was a headline on Australian Broadcasting Corporation. Politico had it. Can't find it on CNN, NBC, MSNBC. It's hard to find. BBC, they reported it. But yeah. The United States, we don't get news here. You got to dig for it. I go to places like Midas Touch on YouTube. Go find Midas Touch on YouTube. They report about all of this stuff. They put out news. So what else do we have? Yeah, so that's the big news of the day. This emergency meeting in Europe, and all that's gone on in Europe this week with J.D. Vance just it's really weird. He's being so atrocious and seemingly stupid, but I don't think he's as stupid as he made himself out to be. I don't know if you saw, again, I don't know what you saw of that if you're just following regular mainstream media. Another thing about mainstream media, you might have heard that CBS is being sued by Donald Trump because he was mad about them doing the interview of Kamala Harris during the campaign months ago. And we reported on this show last week, I think it was. But the really horrible thing about this is not so much Donald Trump, but the owner of Paramount, the woman who basically inherited it, I think, from her father. Her name is Sherry Redstone. She is probably going to settle with Donald Trump because of greed. Now, CBS would definitely win this lawsuit. A $20 billion, because Trump said that they edited the interview. Now, of course they edited the interview. Listen to last week's show. We go into that whole thing in depth, but we did not talk about Sherry Redstone, an employee at CBS, says everyone expects Sherry to settle. She is not concerned about her legacy, democracy, or the work we do. It's only about the deal, her pocketbook. The only way she wouldn't settle is if Skydance sent her a smoke signal to hold off. Surely they realize a settlement diminishes the brand and value of 60 Minutes, which they claim to admire and want to own. Now, if you're wondering, what are you talking about, Skydance? That's because Paramount wants to do a merger with Skydance. And Sherry Redstone would gain about $8 billion if that merger went through. Now, Donald Trump is threatening to sue people to, give me a bribe and I will let your merger go through. But if you fight me on this lawsuit, your merger will not go through. Now, CBS should say, no, we're going to fight you. This is bullshit, is what they should say. But Sherry Redstone is among the worst of the worst. She's a greedy piece of crap. Already a billionaire, needs $8 billion more. Why? So the oligarchy in this country, and that directly affects our mainstream media. It's disgusting. What else? Another thing that I forgot to mention that got turned around. Remember how horrible it was to hear that 300 employees who overlook our nuclear weapons in all kinds of different ways were fired on Thursday? Remember how terrifying it was to hear that? Well, if you're watching mainstream media, maybe you didn't hear. Oh, they all got rehired on Friday. I want to know how that happened. I want to know the workings behind that. Who's working on the side of good? How did they get rehired? How did that? I mean, we know that judges are making rulings, but this particular thing didn't even have time to go to court. They were fired. 300 people were fired on Thursday and rehired on Friday. Who turned that around? Who ordered that? By the way, this just in, the Christian Science Monitor wrote a story about how horrible cutting off all these agencies is to farmers. Because it's true. U.S. aid paid American farmers for their products to send to countries who are starving. Right now, those things are like rotting in trucks. Now, we're going to probably get that moving again, but that's what happens when you cut off U.S. aid. The Christian Science Monitor, not an entity that I normally agree with, but they definitely disagree with the Donald Trump administration. And is the GOP, are you good with this? Basically, the United States against Europe? The fact that Europe right now is talking about how they're going to go along without the United States because they're assuming the United States has basically become their new enemy? You know? How do you feel about that, Republican Party? When is the Republican Party going to start turning? And the answer is about now. Katie Britt, a crazy right-wing freakazoid representative in the House. She is a representative from Alabama. And she said, can we please not cut off the NIH funding that I mentioned in the last segment? because the University of Alabama in Birmingham is the largest employer in the state of Alabama. And also, another thing, Trump said if they don't let out all the hostages this coming Saturday, what was I saying again? Yeah, so he's become so addled that, Anyway, he said if Hamas, of course he says hummus, doesn't release all of the hostages this coming Saturday, which, by the way, was last night, then all hell will break loose. Well, they did their normal thing where they released 3 hostages, and most people are happy because it's progress. And that's part of the deal that was made for this ceasefire that has now been going on for, 3 weeks? Something like that, a month? The Biden administration successfully made a deal with Israel and Hamas to have a ceasefire. They're letting 3 hostages out every Saturday. Sometimes I think maybe more, but I'm not sure. But Trump said if they don't let all the hostages out, all hell's going to break loose. And as near as I can see, hell has not broken loose. I don't see hell running around the streets anywhere. So hell, in fact, did not break loose. Everything Donald Trump says and orders ends up not happening. It ends up not happening. One of the saddest things that I heard, now I'm sure it's going to get turned around, they've laid off a whole bunch of people from the National Parks Service. I heard a story about a guy who just retired from the Coast Guard, and he's got a family of 5 kids and a wife, and they were very happy because they got their dream job. They moved on to a national park, and he became a park ranger or something like that. Anyway, he started working for the national parks, something that the whole family was really happy about. He got laid off because he's on probation. He's a probationary, because he's new. They laid all those people off. I think it's going to be temporary, but those stories are really sad. And it is turning people against Trump and Elon Musk, because Musk is supposedly Doge is the one who's doing this, all this BS. Mexico. Going down my list here, and I have now gone out of order. So I'm having to read down the list and see, what did I forget? Anyway, this whole thing, and again, it was only a week ago where Donald Trump did this whole charade in his airplane flying over the Gulf of Mexico and making an announcement that it is now called the Gulf of America because he signed something saying it's changed to the Gulf of America. And Google held off for a couple days, but then they did change it to the Gulf of America, at least when you're viewing Google Maps in America. Mexico might sue Google. I hope they do. The president, Claudia Sheinbaum, who is our Kamala Harris, and, I want to get our Claudia, who is Kamala. That's what we deserve. Mexico got where the world is going. She's got an 80% approval rating in Mexico. And she's talking about suing Google. Oh, change the name back. It is not called the Gulf of America. And she's actually got legal precedence. She's got it figured out. She explained it. People are really wondering what is going on with aviation. Well, we know that Donald Trump cut the FAA quite a bit. But is that the cause of these things? What is going on? Why are we having all these plane crashes when we hadn't had one for years and years? That was this big, a passenger airplane. We had 64 people die in a passenger airplane over Washington, D.C. It took them longer to break into the black box of the Black Hawk helicopter that collided with the passenger airplane. And they found that the pilots, there were 2 pilots, one regular pilot and one instruction pilot. He was instructing the regular pilot. They were doing some exercises for that pilot. And 3 people on the helicopter all also died. And they might have not been getting the right altitude information. It's pretty fascinating. I don't want to go too much into it, but there's what's called radio altitude. It's like using radar, kind of. It sends a ping down to the ground and then back up to your airplane or helicopter, and it tells you how far off the ground you are. The plane's radio altitude, 2 seconds before the collision, it read 313 feet. Now, it was going down at about 7.5 feet per second. So let's say that it was at about 300 feet, a little more than 300 feet. But the helicopter, they were getting the reading of 278 feet. Now, I know that's way too close for comfort, but they should be exactly the same. So why were they off? Why did their radio altimeters read two different things when they obviously were at the same altitude because they hit each other? That is something that they're looking into. They don't know why that is. They don't know why that is. Wow. And also the two pilots on the copter on on the barometric pressure altimeters. It's another way of it. Again, it's really fascinating to geeks like me, but they had two different readings inside the helicopter on those. It's really weird, and the investigation has to grapple with this. They, at the moment, can't explain it. Also, there's something called automatic dependent surveillance broadcast. It's known as ADSB, and the helicopter had the ability, it had ADSB out, but it was not transmitting. This is something, again, so that they can get more data on what's going on in the flight, which, of course, is used if there's any kind of accident. Why was the helicopter not transmitting its ADSB radar or data? Why was it not broadcasting? They don't know why. So what affected that? How did that get messed with? I don't know when these answers are going to come out or what they're going to be. But we do know that Mark Rutte weeks ago announced that NATO found that Russia and Vladimir Putin were planning on putting devices on airplanes. So I don't know. I don't know what happened. And we probably won't know for a while. There have been a couple more mishaps. It was looking more scary 2 weeks ago than it is now, but it's still not a good feeling, not a good thing. A lot of other craziness went on this week. We have run out of time. I just want to remind you again, the reason that I can't get through all this stuff in one show anymore is because of that's what they want. They want chaos. With chaos comes fear. You and I get nervous, we get depressed, and we get scared. Let's not, because that's what they want. That's what they're trying to do. Let's make them fail. Remember what AOC says.
I'm not going to give them my fear.
Okay, let's go along with her. Thank you again so much for joining us here on this show. What we're trying to do here is remind you that we're all in this together. All of us are in this together. Everybody that you hear, Representative Robert Garcia, Jasmine Crockett, AOC, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, we're all in this together. We're all still here with you. You're not alone in this anxiety. Let's support each other. I hope you keep coming back to this show. I'm going to try and make things as fun as possible. We're going to get through this together. All right? So thank you so much for sticking with me here on A Satellite View. We'll speak at you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.